So today, September the 12th, 2021, and this diary entry is about the wake up call that I had with crashing my truck. So last week Friday, I was supposed to hang out, go to Club Nova downtown, home where mom was supposed to be having like a album release party and everything. But earlier in the day, something I just got this feeling. I was just like something kind of came over me and told me just not to go. So I acted on that. I didn't go. But then a little bit later into the afternoon, my little brother calls me and he's like, I just want to get out the house. Let's go hang out. Let's grab some lunch downtown and just shoot the breeze. So, we ended up hanging out for the remainder of the day. The day turned into nighttime. We ended up just hanging out basically. And so after I dropped him off, it's maybe about 10:30 at night. And it was kind of raining slightly, like it wasn't pouring, but like the ground and everything was wet, like slight drizzle. And so when I drop him off, I get onto the interstate, the expressway, and I'm driving, and literally like, as I'm driving, I hear this loud pop, and it sounded like one of my tires blew. But immediately after hearing that sound, the tires in the rear lock up. And I'm trying my best, like, I grab the steering wheel, I try to tap the brakes, but I try my best, like, not to panic and to remain calm in the situation because, being aware of my surroundings, I know that there was like 3 or 4 cars around me, some to the front, some behind me. It's the expressway, so, but once I realized that I didn't have any control over this vehicle, I'm literally like sitting in my truck as I'm sitting right now, and I just drop my hands off the steering wheel, take my feet off the pedals, and it was just literally like one of those situations where Jesus took the wheel. And so the tires locked up naturally, and from going, probably anywhere between 60 to 70 miles per hour, the truck begins to spin. And as my truck is spinning out of control, I'm just sitting here, like bracing myself for the impact, just waiting to hit the car to the left or the car to the right or the car from behind me to T-bone me, or I'm just bracing myself. And I know that I was saying words out loud, but honestly I don't think those words were really making sense. But like internally and like with my spirit and everything, I really felt like I was just praying that entire time my truck was just spinning. And my truck isn't just no little vehicle on the road, so it takes up a lot of space. So imagine spinning out of control 30, 40, 50 feet. Because it was, like I say, it was raining that day as well, so the ground was wet. So when the tires locked up and the momentum, it literally, like, my truck was on skates. And so from there, I remember I'm just praying. And the next thing I know, the truck kind of comes to like a slow, I can't even say it like an abrupt stop because it wasn't abrupt. I spin, and then the back tire hits the curb and the rear bumper hits the guardrail because my truck is lifted. So naturally, like if it was a regular car, like the entire back end would have smashed into the guardrail first. So the tire kind of took the majority of the impact onto the curb, and then the bumper took the rest from the guardrail. But that's what stopped my momentum. And so literally as it happens, like in the blink of an eye, the first thing was like, thank you, God, like really like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But then also knowing my situations and being aware of my surroundings, I was like, I can't just sit here because now this time my truck is facing the opposite way of oncoming traffic, but it's still halfway into the lane that's on the furthest of the right. Like it's like a merging lane, I believe. So I'm like, I can't just sit here because I know a car is just gonna come by and it's just gonna hit my truck going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. Like, so I was like, I'm not out of Dodge yet. So literally I jump out of the truck, and so to paint the picture, there's a guardrail and then there's this long steep hill, like trees and grass, but I mean like a really like steep hill. So first thing is like I gotta get myself to safety. I know I'm not bleeding. I know there's not any like physical injuries. So what I ended up doing was I jumped over the guardrail, and there's like some trees, because I wasn't gonna run all the way to the bottom of that hill. There were like some trees. So what I did was I shielded myself behind those trees. And like literally as I'm just kind of back there, cause like at this point, like I'm shaking, like, so as I'm back there, like not even 2 seconds behind me, kind of like taking cover behind these trees, a car comes plowing into the back of another car. And I don't know if that car was stopping to check on me to see if I was okay, or if they weren't paying attention and swerved, the front end of my truck. And as they were serving, maybe the car behind them wasn't paying attention, but literally like I look up and you hear it, just that loud psh. And as you hear it, there's literally like pieces from both of those cars flying, over the guardrail towards me. And I'm literally like behind the tree, because that could have been something. I could have lost a limb, could have been fatal, it could have made things so much worse. And a part of me kind of feels bad because it was like I felt somewhat responsible for causing that accident. But then literally like as I look up, both of those cars were gone. And the only thing that was just left was the remains of the pieces from the accident, like the headlights, the body pieces, all these little plastic and metal, just pieces of these two cars just in the middle of the street. And so immediately, like, I get on the phone and I call my little brother. He didn't pick up initially, but I text him like, hey, look, hit me back ASAP. I just got into an accident or something of that nature. And he ends up calling me back. I guess he had took a shower or something. But he ends up calling me back like, look, I'm on the way. You know what I'm saying? Just be cool. And so as he arrived, the fire truck was the first person to arrive, was the first people to arrive. And they're like, are you okay? They're checking me out, whatever. I'm just like, hey, listen, like I'm good. But I do know that there was another accident, and those cars, I presume are just a little bit further up the road. Like, you guys need to just go check on them. Like, I'm fine. You know, I'm not bleeding, I'm not hurting, I don't need to go to the hospital. So I know that was very unselfish of me to, you know, to do that, but also I felt like it was just the right thing to do. And then after the fire department shows up, the ambulance shows up, they go down the road. Then the, what are they called? Road rangers, like the Florida Department of Transportation, they have like roadside assistance trucks, service trucks or whatever. So they show up. And as they show up, it was perfect because, you know, they were able to kind of detour the traffic away from my truck. And, you know, I felt safe, honestly, because they had the road flares, the cones, and the lights. So it was just like, you know, my car hanging out into this merging lane wasn't, you know, you didn't look up and see it at the last minute and cause, you know, further injuries or another accident. So they get my information because once you deny like medical attention and everything, you have to sign like a little consent form on their little tablet thing or whatever. So after I signed the consent, the road ranger show up. Then after the road ranger shows up, the state trooper shows up. Now at this time, my brother is there, the trooper is there, but knowing my situation at the time, my registration was outdated on the truck and my driver's license was suspended. And so in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, you know, this is the worst time for something like this to happen because, you know, with a suspended license, you can go to jail. The registration situation would have been another ticket on top of everything else I got going on. So, you know, my brother was like, listen, like, you know, if I need to say that I was driving, you know, I do that. And so I was like, I don't want to get my little brother jammed up in anything because I had already given the first responders my information and signed the consent. And I felt like if the police officer or anything would have happened, they would have cross-referenced it and knew what was going on. So I was willing to just accept the consequences with what happened. But the trooper came over and was like, you know, you're the only person involved. I'm not going to do an investigation. There's not going to be any type of citations or anything given out. If you're okay, then, you know, you're pretty much free to go is what he said. And then I was just like, I'm on the phone now. I'm going to just call a tow truck and have it towed to a repair shop. And then, you know, he still had to do his job. So he went and he took down the information from my tag. And you know, after he ran it, he came back to me and was like, hey, listen, do you know that, you know, the registration on your truck is outdated and your driver's license is suspended? And so as I'm kind of like getting ready to explain the situation at hand, he was like, hey, listen, man, like, I'm not doing an investigation, so you don't have to worry about nothing. Just get the situation taken care of and get home safe. And he was on his way. So that right there was a blessing within itself because normally when you come across state troopers, they're not lenient whatsoever. And then as far as my truck, I call a tow truck and they come out and I noticed on the ground under my truck, the drive shaft, out of everything, the drive shaft is laying on the ground. And upon, you know, towing my vehicle to the repair shop, a few days later, they called me and they're like, hey, listen, your whole rear end is gone, is shot. You got to replace it. Like all the gears, everything that's inside your rear differential is like completely like jacked up. And so in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, if it's just a drive shaft, we can replace the drive shaft. I know my truck is up there in the miles, so let's just, you know, just service the drive shaft and be done with it. But when they told me the rear end was out as well, so not only the drive shaft had to be replaced, but also the rear end too, it's like, whew. when it rains, it pours. That's literally what this situation felt like. And for me, you know, where we were just at with this video diary last week, I felt like I was starting to transition into getting ahead in life. Like a lot of things seemed like they were falling into place for me. And so to literally feel like I took those 2 or 3 steps forward just to take another 2 to 3 steps backwards really kind of took the wind out of my sail. And like this past week, it's been hard for me to get out of the bed. It's been hard for me to regain my motivation and my focus. Because what this did, it wasn't more so of a physical defeat, but more of like a mental thing. Like, you know, now I gotta come up with $3,000 to repair my truck just to get back to point A, just to get back to having solid, reliable transportation. You know, those $3,000 that could have been delegated or allocated towards doing other things or getting ahead, or just so much that I had planned for myself, and you know, where I wanted things to go. And I know sometimes it's not about what we want for ourselves, but what God's purpose is, you know, for the journey. So after taking so much time this past week, and I mean like literally like time off, like I haven't edited a video all week. I haven't really been on top of the emails, invoices, phone calls, like none of that. Like when I tell you, like majority of my days have been spent in the bed watching TV, just kind of scrolling on my phone. Like I haven't posted on social media or anything. I haven't been eating the way that I should, and I can feel it. Like my body just doesn't feel, I just don't feel like myself. And so for me to sit down and make this video was because it was like I gave myself that time to basically like lick my wounds, and you know, the things that I took away from that accident, that situation that could have been way worse than what it was. Like I literally felt like God had his hands around me, you know, like I was protected. Like it was just another reminder and reassurance that I have a greater purpose for my life being on this earth, because that situation could have easily have went, you know, completely different. And then, you know, so many people reached out and checked on me, and I appreciate everybody that reached out and checked on me, man. Like even if it was just sending a text message, hey man, you good? Like that really kind of let me know, you know, the type of people that you have in your corner and the company that you keep, versus so many people that'll see your posts and stuff like that and kind of just keep it pushing. Because ideally, people don't care about you. They only care about what you can do for them. And let that sink in. Like, people don't care about you. They just care about what you can do for them. So if you're not like a service, or you're not a benefit to somebody else, like what does it matter? Like if you're not benefiting me, like what, you know? And that was kind of like one of the greatest lessons that I took in this past week. And so now today, as you can see, the puzzle that I started is now complete. I feel a little bit better, like spirits wise. Like I'm ready to get back to the money, ready to get back to my grind. I can't even say I'm ready to get back to like being myself. Like I'm ready to transition and get to a better version of myself. I'm ready to become like a better father, ready to be a better businessman, ready to transition basically, like going from the caterpillar to the butterfly. Like I felt like this past week was like a cocoon stage for me. And if you've made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. So until next time.